Just to introduce myself, I'm Chris Nineham. I'm a local resident. I live on the estate across the road, and I'm Vice Chair of the Stop the War Coalition. And we're going to have a few short introductory speeches or talks or whatever. The first is going to be from Brian Whelan here, who is indeed one of the residents. You may have seen him complaining and protesting against the plans on the media. He's waged so far a kind of lone campaign against what they're doing in Fairfield Road. So he's going to say a few words and update you on the campaign there. We have Joanna Fleck, who's helping out on the legal side, who's a lawyer who has been working with Brian about on some of the legal issues that we are already pursuing, and some of the whether we can go further down the legal route as well as others. We are also expecting Rania Khan, Councillor Rania Khan, who's a Tower Hamlets councillor, who's going to be here in 5 or 6 minutes, she says. So she'll give her views, and she'll report on the fact that her and some other councillors are actually putting a motion into Tower Hamlets Council opposing these plans, which is a very good first step. So is that okay? And then of course there'll be time for discussion on both the sort of general issues, but also on things we can do to try and stop this happening. So is that okay as a way of conducting the meeting? Excellent. Well, thanks very much to you all for coming, and I'll introduce Brian to speak for 5 minutes or so. Brian.
Yeah, hi. I'll speak from my chair. If that's all right.
Brian's going to speak from his chair. By the way, actually, sorry, before I was asked to ask one question. Is it okay for people if the meeting is filmed? Has anyone got any objections? Okay, brilliant. Thanks very much, Brian.
Hi, I'm the journalist that broke the story on Saturday, but it was going to break anyway. Obviously, it was no great feat. I got a leaflet through my door. It's not the hardest story I've ever had. It's probably the biggest one that's ever landed on top of me. If you're a resident in Beaucourt, I'd like to apologise for making you run the gauntlet of the international media and news vans for the last 7 days. But as it was, I wasn't prepared to sit back and allow the MOD to just force this decision upon us. And continue to refuse to answer questions. As it is, they do continue to refuse to answer questions. So, I mean, I'm soon to be an ex-resident of Beaucourt. I'll continue to offer my support to anyone living there who wants to challenge this really, really poorly thought out decision. I'll give a bit of background on things I've found out about how this decision was made, and that was the first thing that I wanted to know was why weren't we consulted? We woke up to a leaflet pushed through the doors late Saturday night. The estate office wasn't open again until Monday morning. The number on the leaflet just rang out. There was no way to get any sort of answers about what was going on. There's a management company at Beaucourt called Little Apple Holdings with 3 directors. Two of the directors do not live in Beaucourt. They're the 2 directors that made this decision. The 3rd director, who does live in Beaucourt, was excluded from the meeting, and we're still struggling to get a copy of the minutes to find out what actually was decided. The property management company also boasted that very little money had changed hands in this deal. Surely if you're going to turn people's homes into some sort of missile base, the very least you could do is compensate them. It might have shut up some of the people who live there, I don't know, but you know, it would have been something to try. So MOD and Little Apple Holdings made a deal, but none of us know the exact extent of the deal, or you know what the details are. And what we'd really like to do is kickstart a legal challenge that forces the details of that to emerge, and then challenge that at some point. Maybe even get an injunction against this plan and really try to stop this plan from going ahead. And we've been approached by some really great legal minds on this who are willing to work with us. I mean, so far the MOD's strategy has been to stonewall us. They sent, because I forced their hand, or because the media forced their hand, they sent a spokesperson along on Tuesday. He wasn't able to answer any questions, and they'd only engage with people on a one-to-one basis. And if you engage with people on a one-to-one basis, nobody knows what their neighbour is thinking. I didn't know until people started emailing me that my neighbours were equally opposed to this plan, really. So if the MOD wants to engage everyone one-to-one, it keeps us all quite weak. If we force the MOD to get in a room with all of us, I think we'll all learn that there's actually quite a wealth of opposition to this, to these plans. So the MOD man wasn't able to tell me what borough he was in. He said he met with the local council. There's a Labour councillor living in the building. She said that she wasn't consulted. He didn't know what the name of the local council was. He didn't know he was in Tower Hamlets. In terms of mounting a legal challenge, at the minute, we're looking for people to come forward who are leaseholders in Bow Quarter, who are willing to put their name to this challenge, and maybe we can move forward under the Human Rights Act and get something off the ground. In terms of political support, the local Labour MP has been utterly useless. Anytime she's meant to meet up with me, she's failed to. She came out initially and complained about not being engaged, but the MOD have told me off the record that they offered to meet with her quite a while ago and that she didn't show up to the meeting. So I think the Labour Party have quite a bit to answer, considering one of their councillors lives in the building where this plan is going ahead. The police told me just now before the meeting that the first they heard of these plans were when they read about it in the Evening Standard this week. So you can see it's not been well thought out, it's not been well planned, and they haven't properly engaged with anyone in the community. I think I'll probably leave it there. I think you'll probably be hearing less and less from me now that I am being evicted from my apartment. So, I'm going days before the opening ceremony, so I'll no longer be a resident of Bow Quarter, and I guess that makes it more difficult for me to be the face of complaining at Bow Quarter. But absolutely would love if people who live in the complex itself and live around it would make themselves known and let me know if they're willing to partake in a proper legal challenge that maybe we could injunct against this.
Thanks very much, Brian. I sincerely hope that isn't true. I sincerely hope you continue to be at the forefront of this campaign, because I think it's very important you do. But congratulations for everything you've done so far. Now I'd like to call Joanna just to say a few words about the kind of legal situation and the potential for a continued legal challenge. So over to you, Joanna.
I'm Joanna. I'm from Tucker Solicitors. I'm actually here on behalf of Jules Carey, who's been the one who's been working with Brian on this. Jules has been looking at kind of all the various options, and a lot of it will depend on what involvement you have in it and who's willing to come forward and take the challenge, and that will affect the kind of options that are open to residents and anybody, all interested people, because I imagine there are people who live close by who feel just as threatened as the people who are living directly under it. As Brian was saying, the first issue potentially is kind of a land law issue, really, in terms of the way the decision has been made. And I think before turning to kind of litigation, there might be the kind of simplest option really would be to try and challenge that initial agreement, if there has been an official agreement between the MOD and Apple Holdings. So that would be a matter for freeholders who have an interest in the holding company to kind of call a meeting to challenge that decision. And as Brian said, I think the key thing here is that no information has been given as to any legal background for this. Essentially everyone's keeping quiet, which doesn't help with kind of what steps we can take going forward. If it comes to it, I know that there are people who kind of want to take this to court if that kind of those steps can't be taken. And there are various ways of doing that, and as Brian said, under the Human Rights Act, also under the law of nuisance. And both these things would mean that we might be able to go to court and make an emergency application for injunction. So essentially the court saying, for one reason or other, say the way that you've gone about this or the effect that this is going to have on people is too great, and the court, won't allow this to go ahead. And that might be a temporary thing, it might be a permanent thing. I don't want to go on too long because I think really the point of the meeting is for the community to decide what they want to do, and I'm happy to answer any questions about what ideas people have and who wants to be involved, but that's all for now.
Thanks very much, Joanna. Okay, I'd like to welcome Rania Khan, Councillor Rania Khan, to the meeting. Thanks very much for coming. Before Rania says a few words, I just want to report on a couple of the things that have taken place that kind of exhibit the extent to which the Olympic, I suppose the Olympic Committee themselves are having a kind of effect of suppressing debate and discussion about what's going on. Because one of our other listed speakers who works on the Underground, is a trade union official on the Underground, was told by his management that he wasn't allowed to come and say anything about the situation. But also I know that the people who are representatives in the council and people who work from the council are under very, very strict kind of discipline about what they're able to say and what they're not able to say. Anyone who has any connection whatsoever with the Olympics is told a whole list of things that they can't even mention, including words that rhyme with Olympic. I mean, it's completely got out of control. So I mean, this is one of the things that we're up against, and that we need to be thinking about and challenging. Anyway, having said that, over to Rania.
Okay. Thank you, Chris, and welcome to everyone here. I mean, the strength of the feeling is clearly, you can see this by everybody, the strength of the people here this evening, today. And welcome, and thank you for coming to the meeting. I'm personally here to listen to your concerns, so I can sort of raise those concerns when I am in my meetings and so forth. I mean, I do sit with council officers who have direct contact with ODA and LOCOG and so forth. And as Chris said, we are bound by certain sort of legislations, and we can't obviously openly say anything. And it's very complicated. I mean, the day after the Olympics finishes, they abolish the whole. You can't basically challenge Olympics. I mean, you can't. It's too big. You can't, even if they do anything wrong, you can't challenge it, because the day after they're completely abolished for another term or so. Before I start my meeting, I just want to say that I was born up out of the anti-war movement, so you can imagine how I feel having missiles on my doorstep. My flat is literally a couple of just opposite Bow Quarters, just on Rainhill Way. So I'm literally a couple of minutes, even if that, away from the missiles. And also I represent Bromley by Bow Ward, which is just on the sort of borders. So my residents have many concerns, just like yourselves, and rightly so. So before I address the main issue tonight, let me just get one thing out of the way. I know I speak for everyone here tonight, saying that we want Olympics to be safe and safe from the threat of terrorism. And I understand that the security services have taken special measures to ensure the safety of those attending the Games. The reasons we are here tonight is not to discuss the safety of those attending the Olympics. We all agree that protecting the Olympics from the threat of terrorist attacks is important and also is a priority. The reason we are here tonight is to say that it is important to get the balance right between those attending the Games and protecting the safety of residents of who live in the vicinity of the Games, and I'm one of those too. Unfortunately, the plans of the MOD to place missile defense system on the top of the Lexington strikes the wrong sort of balance. In my view, they have handled this issue quite badly. They should have consulted properly with the residents. I mean, I got to know about this actually on the day from the newspapers. So they haven't consulted properly with the residents, which they didn't obviously do that. Instead, they have tried to reassure us, the council, that if they go ahead with placing the missile system, they will be manned by professionals. And I should really hope so.
That's reassuring, isn't it?
I should really hope so. I would hate to think what might happen if they were operated by amateurs. The fact are that accidents do happen, right? Yeah. And it is dangerous to place high explosives in residential areas, and especially in an area like Tower Hamlets, where we have high density of properties within a certain vicinity. So it's actually, in any area, I would suggest it's dangerous. And it is dangerous to think that even firing any missiles over residential areas, especially ones that, according to the military experts, say that they don't work very well when it's bad weather. Come on. And when do we have good weather? I heard in the news that they might even be snowing soon. So the MOD saying that they have no definite plans yet where to deploy them is also a worry as well. The message we want to send them from this meeting tonight is that they should rethink their plans. They should listen to the concern of the residents, and they should scrap any plans to deploy them on top of the Lexington. Thank you, and hear your concerns.
Okay, well, before opening up the meeting, I just wanted to add a couple of points to some of those already made. I mean, the first one, just to reiterate, I do think the lack of consultation has been kind of surreal, really. I mean, we tend to have consultation about lots of things, about parking bays. In our block, when the concierge is changed, we have consultation. You know, they're putting rockets in our gardens. You'd think there'd be some sort of discussion about it. And I absolutely want to take up Brian's suggestion that I think one of the things that we should demand, and we should even organise ourselves, is a big public event, public forum, where we can have some of our people speaking, but we also invite the MOD, we invite perhaps the council, and we invite the local MPs to come and explain themselves. And really, you know, we can have the arguments out in the open. I think that would be a good idea. Second thing is, Rania has mentioned, I mean, the safety and security issues are, I guess, plain for anyone who's sensible about these issues. I mean, as Rania says, accidents do happen. The Jane's Defence Review, which is the main kind of industry magazine for the weapons industry, says that these two missiles that they're discussing have a very, very bad track record, that they don't function properly in bad weather or in areas with tall buildings. I mean, you know, you couldn't make this stuff up, really. Brian actually, I don't think you mentioned it, Brian has very cleverly published pictures on the internet that have been reported in the media of some of the equipment that the soldiers have brought in to the match factory, just being left in the courtyard, just unguarded. I mean, it's absolutely incredible.
These professionals who are operating it, bless them. I mean, they're all younger than me, and I mean, I'm not 30 yet, so I'd like to consider myself young. They're just kids, a lot of them. I spent 30 seconds unguided with their equipment yesterday. That's meant to be a test run. Surely you run a test run like you'd run the real thing. It's a disgrace.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, the safety issues, you know, are obvious. The final point is just the whole question of why it's being done. And I mean, you know, the idea that we're going to shoot... Now, these missiles, by the way, have a range of between 3 and 4 miles. So even if there is a serious threat of some sort of terrorist attack, and even if they are used, they're going to hit something over the most densely populated area of London. And, you know, you don't need to think very hard to realise what the kind of carnage that would create. So it doesn't seem to make sense. And also, it seems to be completely impossible that the MOD don't actually have some sort of missile defence system around East London, which contains the Isle of Dogs. I mean, in terms of their priorities, the Isle of Dogs, the City of London. Do they not have a functioning system that can intercept rogue aeroplanes? If they don't, they should be sacked anyway. So I mean, I think I don't think this is a serious kind of security operation. I don't think this is really about making London or East London, the Olympics, any safer. I think it's it's bravado. It's a show of strength. It's as who was it in the Guardian today? I don't know if people read a very good article. Simon Jenkins wrote in the Guardian today, saying that the danger is the Olympics is being turned into a kind of festival for the international security industry, and I think that's partly what's going on. You know, they're talking about having armed police on the tube with machine guns. They're talking about having special patrol people in our street with balaclavas on to hide their identity. They've got helicopter gunships circling round. I mean, it's really quite sinister and unpleasant. And the idea that any of this And most of all, putting missiles on our rooftops is going to make anyone sleep safer in their beds is frankly ridiculous. So I think there's a whole lot of very good arguments that we can put against it. I don't think even the media, I think, is kind of quite incredulous about the whole operation. So I think we've got the possibility here of having a campaign not just in Bow, but linking up all the 6 different areas in the eastern part of London where they are talking about sighting these missiles, that actually can win, because they're even admitting that the final decision hasn't been made. So I think if we move quickly, we can have a very good campaign. Just a few practical suggestions. A couple have been made. We've got in the councillors, some of the councillors are putting the resolution forward, which is a very, very good resolution, opposing it. We've got the idea of having a kind of proposing a big kind of public forum where we invite some of them to come and put their side of the argument, if you can call it that. I suggest also that we have a protest outside in Fairfield Road, outside the Match Factory, possibly, and this is up for discussion, tomorrow morning, because the MOD are doing an information, they've been sort of shamed into actually trying to have some sort of dialogue tomorrow morning. So I think having a protest either inside or probably outside, because there's security on the gates, might be a good idea tomorrow morning. And finally, I suggest as well, other people have suggested, as well as the legal process, that maybe we should have a campaign of lobbying our MP, Rushnara Ali, who I notice has surgeries but only by appointment. So we might have to be making some appointments with her and then going along en masse. So those are a few suggestions. Obviously now the meeting's open for any kind of questions to the panel or points people want to make, or any suggestions about how we take the campaign forward. Thanks very much. So just raise your hands if you want to say something, and try and keep your points short and sweet so that everyone can get in. Someone at the back there.
My question is, why are you being evicted? Is it something to do with
I mean, eviction is a specific legal term. My lease is being terminated because my landlord's unhappy with me bringing TV cameras out. It's the short version.
Should have brought missiles. You're all right with those.
Okay.
I mean, this is obviously questions about me as part of the campaign. And obviously, Brian, this is totally, obviously, if you'd rather not pursue this, is totally up to you. But I think part of the campaign should be saying that no one who speaks out against missiles should be evicted.
Right.
And our community, there should be mass support. Well, I think it's outrageous if this is happening. And obviously, as I say, that's totally would be by yourself. But I feel that any part of any campaign should be no victimisation of activists, because every 2 years the international arms industry comes to East London, goes to Excel, sells its weapons of mass destruction. We've got to say you're not going to use this area if you're citing or using or selling or discussing missiles, and people who stand up should be applauded.
Yes, 2 quick points. Firstly, I'm pleased that Tuckers are here because they are the solicitors that are representing the family of Ian Tomlinson, who was beaten to death by the filth in the G20 event, and they know the business and they're going to be useful to her. The second thing is, it isn't this hardware on the roof that's the big problem, because they're not just going to put it up there and leave a couple of gunners to look after it. They are going to have a company of squaddies protecting it against anybody. I mean, against the Victoria Park People's Liberation Army who would like climb in and steal it. And I do not want any more people with guns walking about on our streets, because what happens is a man with a uniform has got a gun, he's going to shoot somebody. And that is something which I think our councillors should be pursuing, that it's not just the hardware, it's also the people with the personalised artillery.
No, sorry, the woman behind you, Jackie.
Yes, sorry. I think the whole idea that they're going to shoot down something over East London is completely and utterly ludicrous. And we've got to be campaigning against this in very, very strong terms. It's not just London streets, but also, it's the taking over of the whole of East London business. Things like Violent Stadium, which is my local running clubs, they're going to be chucked out of their running clubs because the Americans are going to be, that's their training ground. And the whole place is going to be surrounded by a ring of armed FBI. So it's not only our own squaddies on the street. streets who are gun happy, look what happened to Jean-Charles de Menezes and so on. It's also, you know, the FBI are going to be here on our streets outside our houses. So I think we've got to have a very vigorous campaign. It's really important that we link up with the other places. I think a protest tomorrow morning, if the MOD are going to be there, great. I mean, I'm sure there are a few people here who'll be able to go, but I think we should also be aiming for a much bigger protest, maybe when we've got time to build it, with the other boroughs as well, a much bigger protest. We could do things like, again, it's probably too soon, but I mean, you know, right on our Patches Roman Road Market, which is quite busy on a Saturday morning, we could be petitioning down there, we could be handing out leaflets down there, and that sort of thing, and just building this and stopping this happening.
Yeah. I mean, I'd just like to endorse that. I mean, I think it probably is a good idea that we should be building towards thinking in sometime in the next few weeks of you know, judging by the turnout tonight, of actually having a serious demonstration through the area. I think it will probably do that, and that will have a big impact. So, hang on, I've got a list of people.
Yeah, I'm from the Counter Olympics Network, and I'm not obviously thrilled that you're having a meeting because it's shocking that the whole thing should be happening, but I'm really pleased that people are mobilising for it. And I just wanted to say that, like, basically from our perspective, you know, following on from what you said about you know, it's about an arms show, but the whole Olympics thing is about making us all, softening us up for increasing the surveillance society. And we've already seen stuff happening, like a person who was arrested at the Leighton Marsh you know, occupation against environmental devastation has had an ASBO put on him. There's definite, you know, which means he's not supposed to go within 50 yards of anything that's happening throughout, you know, the whole Olympics. He's not supposed to be campaigning. Somebody has passed to us a document that was actually given out to all the security guards, which has on it all the T-shirts of all the campaigners. So I'm wearing a official protester T-shirt. I can't show you. You know, it's like there's 6 or 7 different, so all the different campaigns, you know, like the Dow people, the EDF people, you know, there are T-shirts campaigning, and we're a very small, you know, we're just kind of trying to make the links between the different groups. But the point is that people are starting to feed information into us, and that you should really, I think, I mean, what you're planning to do is completely great, but I think you've really got to understand that it is all part of the big kind of picture around the Olympics movement that just needs, you know, I mean, if you could step in and help us on the legal front, like the Leighton Marshes stuff, and, you know, somebody was just held in prison for a whole week. You know, it's really shocking, and I'd just like us all to be able to work together, and whatever you're planning, we'll kind of do our best to support you. And we have got a website, and I've got some information I can give you later.
Right, thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, go on.
I completely agree with the kind of looking at the bigger picture of this. We've got clients who were arrested before the royal wedding last year, and we're currently challenging those. A group of solicitors are currently challenging various actions they took. And hopefully, this is the kind of thing that will come in place before, to give them a bit of a warning that they can't kind of go around arresting people on dubious means and giving them, for instance, bail conditions. That means they can't go anywhere near, you know, the Olympic Park, but then also where their community is, where their friends are, essentially blocking off an entire section of London from people. And as the gentleman said, you know, people who deal with the police frequently know how dangerous a police officer who's completely unarmed can be. So let alone with a taser, a gun, and storing shells in the basement of a residential building is just beyond. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Joanna. The guy there. Yeah, you, sir.
I disagree with you when you say that the decision has still got to be made. I think the decision was made back in November. You heard about the rumours of missile batteries being put on top of the building. I live in my end, and we're going to have, as the woman said there, we're going to have people from the American Diplomatic Service and the FBI regarding the area around there. And already local businesses have been told that it's going to be a no-go area. and I'm particularly worried about that.
Thanks very much, Brian.
So yeah, just in terms of how definitive the plans are, I mean, they say, oh, you know, we're considering this. On the leaflet it says this is the only suitable location, but I was told by a journalist from a very high up US TV network today, who was taken up in a helicopter by the MOD, that as far as they're concerned, this is happening unless someone makes them stop. So, I mean, we can take it as a given that the MOD are going to, it's not just a test run, it's happening.
Ben.
Hi, I live just outside of Blackheath, and the plans are to put some of these missiles up on the heath as well. I just like to say, you know, the stuff going on in East London, I think it'd be really important to sort of link up with people from that area as well. The militarisation of our local parks and stuff, that heath in the summer is just absolutely packed with kids and families and people, and so I think it's really important to sort of expand this, the protest against this outside as well.
Thanks very much.
The idea that the friendly games become the military games is just horrific. I'm a solicitor as well, Joanne. I'm delighted that you're here. I'm Martin Howe. I'm solicitor did the Gurkha Justice Campaign with Joanna Lumley, and that was against the Ministry of Defence. You know, they are a tricky opposition, and you need to move swiftly and powerfully against them. The truth of it is that if you allow situation to become established and don't challenge it quickly, then you know the sort of the idiom that possession is 9/10 the law will apply. They'll be sitting up there looking down and you know, like the Dibbets flats in Belfast, they sat on top of there for years. So these situations can arise unless you stop it, and we need to move swiftly on that. And if there's anything that we can bring to the party on that from our experience of running the Justice Campaign against the Ministry of Defence, would be delighted to, Joanna. You know? So do that. What did strike me is that the Human Rights Act that often gets maligned, that is a very powerful tool in the situation. You know, you're living in your flats, you've got a right to private life, and you've got a right to the privacy of your home. And if anything, you know, your kid comes home from school and says, anything happened to you today, Mummy? No, apart from the army moved in upstairs and they stuck up salvos of rockets and they're looking down with mirrors. That's horrific. If there's ever an invasion on the privacy of your home, that is it. And Brian, if people are trying to chuck you out because you've had the gumption and the strength to stand up and speak out, that is an absolute offence to your right of political speech, your freedom of speech. So let's have a look at that as well. All of this, I mean, this is teamwork. And if you can get a number of people together, chuck the ideas around, but move them swiftly, then something can be done. But if you sit on it, it will be over.
Thanks very much. It's Martin, yeah?
Yeah.
Thanks, Martin. I mean, are you able to stay behind at the end and have a chat with Joanna and the rest of us? That's brilliant. Thanks very much for coming. Sorry.
Not to personalise it too much, but I'm actually the partner of Brian, and I haven't been the face of the campaign, although I am very much involved, but I'm not involved in the media, so obviously it's not beneficial for me to also be out there. But yeah, just to make the point that even though I am not Brian Whelan, I am also losing my home. So if we can keep that in context, that it's not just a matter of a journalist that stood up against this, but everything that's to do with him is also suffering, and we just need to shut that down.
Can I add that the Frederick Tower and the Montague Tower, there's a lot of council people on council housing, and you know, does that mean that there's a council
I mean, I've seen comment from those people in the media, and it seems like, I mean, the big problem over there, they have the exact same problem and they're just as opposed. The big problem over there is that they don't have the people who work in the bloody media, so the media have ignored them, which is terrible. Obviously, I'd absolutely love to speak to the people from there and link up with them. Yeah, I mean, that tower has just recovered from. There was a very serious fire in that tower recently. Those people, a lot of them lost their homes and have just moved back in. So I mean, that was quite traumatic experience for them, you know. And now they have this. I know people aren't happy. That, and can guarantee there's a lot more distrust of the police over there than there is in Bow Quarter. Yeah. So having armed police walking the corridors there, you know.
Hang on. We've got other people who want to speak. Sorry. you here?
Yeah, sorry, time, but I just want to say, reiterate what everyone said about fantastic how many people are here and how such a big campaign. I just want to show some solidarity from University of East London. We're down there at the moment, and talking about the militarisation and taking over of the East London. The university's actually been closed early for the summer. We're already out. Which is not so bad for a student, but but yeah, University of East London is actually going to be the home of lots of the American Olympic staff and administration people. There's something like 7,000, 6,000 people coming over, and they're taking over our university, and the university's used that a lot to push through lots of its privatisation, such as the security's been already outsourced and several other things, and the university will actually be out of bounds to students for, I think it's a number of weeks over the holidays. And so in terms of getting a big campaign together, I know there's lots of really annoyed students down at University of East London, so it'd be fantastic to get involved and get more people out against this. Yeah.
Brilliant, thanks very much. Woman in the scarf.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many ways in the military's involvement in the Olympics is, it's really worrying, from snipers being deployed, the missiles, all the troops being used in security, and also the involvement of the armed forces in the opening ceremony. And I think this is all sort of normalising the military within society, and I think, and that's the process that's been, sort of increasing exponentially over the past sort of few years, and I think with a lot of these developments that happen around the Olympics, around security and privatisation and that, it's stuff that will stay afterwards and will not go away. And unless there is a community, with a really strong community response, then it's like everyone just agrees with it. And so it is vital to have a really strong voice. And I think I think one of the momentums behind this is sort of just picking up what you were saying, Chris, about sort of, is this just a sort of big sort of show? If you look at what happened in Vancouver around the militarisation of the Olympics in 2010, the Winter Olympics, they had a huge military presence there. So it's very difficult for the UK to not sort of follow on, because that's the established kind of way of doing things. But it's all the more important for the community to actually say, well, actually, we don't want these kind of games, even if we want the games at all. But we don't want these kind of games. It's totally undermining the spirit of the games. But I was also just thinking about what do we know anything about what the MOD are thinking about the scenarios for using the missiles? And I mean, what happens if something is shot down over East London? How are they going to cope with the chaos on the ground? I mean, to me it feels sort of ludicrous that they even contemplate the use of these things. And I think for trying to really question them and what they actually, in what circumstances they'd use them, and what that would result in, would be maybe revealing.
Thanks. One aspect of the scenario is who's actually going to give the order to fire. And I put this to someone who I was actually on the radio with, a guy called Colonel Sir Richard Kemp, and he said, well, it would probably be the Prime Minister, which I'm not sure that makes you feel any better about the situation, but also let's hope they can get hold of him on the mobile in the kind of 20-second window they have to get the order. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's really weird. Okay, so I've got Simon there.
Yeah, I mean, the whole issues around the Olympics is very interesting, because it really makes me think about kind of Guy Debord's thing about the society of the spectacle, which is that, as society increasingly loses its being, it is replaced by appearance. And what we have with the Olympics is the appearance of wealth, social kind of cohesion. If you pull back the sort of, the curtain from the Olympic opening ceremony, not only do you see growing social inequality and austerity in Britain, but now you're seeing, increasing militarisation, security culture, and, like, these are all the mechanics which underpin, like, what is going on. And I mean, it's really ironic that, back in the Beijing Olympics, there was a lot of people saying, oh, isn't it bad, all these things happening in China, and, they're clamping down on protests. But I mean, that's exactly what's going to happen here. I mean, like, how many people are going to get arrested in the run-up to the Olympics on pre-crime charges and thrown in a cell and, given like terrible bail conditions, they can't go anywhere near the protests. So I think this year, in terms of the spectacle, we've got the Diamond Jubilee and we've got the Olympics, which, are absolutely kind of rubbing our faces in it. I really think that the idea of a large demonstration in East London is a very important one, because I think we have to be careful that if kind of like individuals try and disrupt it, like that guy did with the boat race. I mean, like, he was very brave on one level, but like I just think individual people doing that doesn't really send the right message. I think there's a real potential here to organise a very big demonstration, not just about the missiles, so that's a very serious issue, about the increasing like security, like kind of creeping police state, the social cleansing of Newham, people being moved to Stoke, all these other issues, the public sector workers, the unemployed and so on, who, like the opening ceremony is going to cost £90 million, and yet people are, wage freezes, job cuts, like across the public sector. So I think it could act as a real lightning rod to kind of bring together a very broad range of people, not because they're anti-sport, but because they're anti what the Olympic Games is becoming and represents. And I think that could be a very powerful message.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, I agree with what Simon said. I wasn't expecting to come in so quickly. There is also already a protest being called. I've been involved in the Counter Olympic Network already. There's a protest called for the 29th, which is the second day, 28th, sorry. Well, is it? It's the Saturday of the Olympics. It's going to be challenging all of those issues, and I know there's a lot of students out there who are going to be very wary of what's going on. Students have been magnificent over the last couple of years, and there are already people being arrested preemptively, which we really have to be aware of. And just following up from what you were saying, in fact, all of the University of London campuses are being used for various countries. Israel is in Stratford, for example. University of London Union is being where all the media and whatever are being held. So there's a lot of students that are really cheesed off that they're not going to be able to use their facilities, when they're doing their final exams or whatever. But there's also the side that some people aren't against the Olympics, actually, and I think we have to think a little bit carefully about how we pose it and what this particular campaign, this particular campaign is. Lots of the students, universities already have things like military recruitment off campus, stop the war societies, no to police on campus, and I think we could really mobilise using different sort of techniques, but really thinking carefully about this one.
Thanks very much, Claire. We've got
to reiterate what the woman over there said, because that's what I was thinking just the other day. Like you have this sort of increased securitization, and then all of a sudden they just decide to leave things around, and it all of a sudden becomes normal after a few months or years that this is the kind of security that we have to have. And actually, we don't, or I don't. Certainly don't want to live in a community that is all that is like that is all where I can't feel sort of free and stuff. And the other thing is about consultation. Yes, there's been a complete lack of consultation, and also not just consultation on whether we're on missiles, but I mean the sort of general lack of consultation around how much are these missiles costing? £1 billion. I'd rather that money be put elsewhere, like in the NHS, like. Well-being, that's what they would do. They would put the money into things that we really need. And the last thing is just on the linking up of the different campaigns. I don't think we can just see this as a sort of East London thing or South London thing or whatever. I mean, the strength of the campaign will be how effectively we can bring these things together. And I think, some people said it. So just in terms of this meeting, whoever has the sign-up sheet, that will be quite crucial. So because I'll help to get all the emails together and stuff. And obviously, the bigger we have it, I know that people have found out about it through just walking in Bow and on Facebook and Twitter and everything. That's part of the sort of ramping up of the campaign.
With the sign-up sheet.
With the sign-up sheet, yeah.
Type it up now.
This is how you did it. I wanted to link back to what you were saying about making home, or everyone's been saying this, about connecting the broader issues, and I think you hit it with the human rights aspect, because when you think about it, I mean, I come from the States, if you can't tell by the accent, which, the philosophy of the gun is that if you have a gun, you use it before the other person that may have a gun gets a chance to use it. And so if you're going to put missiles on top of a tower block, you're basically making that place a target. And it's, what does that say about how they value our lives and the people that live here, the lives of the people that live here? And that's where we need to be coming from. They didn't choose to put it on top of the pyramid in Canary Wharf. That's way taller than that. But where the bankers are. But down here, they put it on top of our lives. So I think that's one of the core issues that links back in, and that links into also the students. And they've been raising up the rates on who's gonna and kicking people out, not letting them use their facilities. This all has to go into how they value our lives as compared to other people's who are going to benefit from making this a show of military arms.
Before we carry on, I've had a couple of messages. I've had a few messages actually. One is from Jack Krill-Hock, who's one of the people who kind of initiated this meeting, who a number of people will know, a local resident, lives across the road, across Roman Road. He couldn't be here tonight, but he kind of sends his sort of support and greetings to the meeting. And secondly, we've had a message from the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, which is quite a long message, so I won't read it all. It's actually, weirdly, seems to be addressed to David Cameron at the top, but anyway. But it's definitely meant for us, and they asked us if we could read it out. I'll just read 2 sentences out. The Women's International League for Peace and Freedom considers that the increasing militarisation of the event, i.e. the Olympics, runs counter to the spirit of the Olympics and is likely to have the opposite effect. Opposite that is to encouraging cultural and political international respect, etc. We are aware that the militarised model of security has a detrimental effect on women that is hugely disproportionate to their representation. The use of military markers for the opening ceremony is for many a reminder of the death and damage that has been inflicted across the world and the loss of life or health amongst many of our young people at tremendous cost, etc., etc. So that's a supportive message there from them. And the next speaker I have, I'm going to just keep taking people who haven't spoken. There's a couple of people who've put their hand up a second time. I'll come back to them if we have time. The guy there standing up.
Someone asked about what's the scenario. The RAF had a long-standing policy of a no-fire zone over London, quite sensibly, because anything you fire is going to fall to the ground and kill people or damage people, and anything you shoot down is going to fall to the ground and damage people and kill people. And the RAF has that long-standing policy. Today, Philip Hammond, the Defence Secretary, was interviewed by the Evening Standard, and he said that he was up for shooting down any rogue jumbo over London. And he was asked again, "Are you willing to make that? Are you willing to make that call?" And he said, "Yes, I'm willing to make that decision." Now, the fact is, as Defence Secretary, he's contradicting the long-standing policy of the RAF, which I think is quite an interesting thing in itself. But the other thing that he said is that residents should be reassured by the presence of these missiles, because, and this is the thing that really worried me about the Defence Minister, they are defensive in nature and are pointing up. That is a direct quote from the Defence Minister. Now, these aren't cushions or shields. These are things that blow up. They may be defensive in the sense of trying to, intercept something, but and as far as I'm aware, they're also subject to the law of gravity, just like everything else, and will come down. The idea that just because they're pointing up means that nothing's going to come down and kill people. Anything you shoot down over London is going to kill hundreds, if not thousands, of people. And so what they're saying, what the statement is that people in one of the poorest boroughs in London are less important than the Olympics. Yeah. And I think that's extremely worrying.
I've just got 2 or 3 more people who put their hands up, and then we should probably start bringing things to some kind of a close. I'd ask people just to maybe comment on particularly the idea about whether they think protesting tomorrow morning is a good idea, because I think there's been, I don't know what the mood of the meeting is on that, but we've got Pat there next.
Yeah, my name's Pat, local resident, and resident just down the road there off the road. And when we go back home tonight, and for the next few weeks and months, we are going to be inundated by a barrage of the media with a very different message from this meeting than we've had from this meeting. And one which will be talking about, again and again, that we're talking about the Olympic legacy. Well, for us, we're going to have a very different legacy, aren't we? Already I know people that have been evicted from their homes because of landlords think they can ramp the rents up around here. Already someone's mentioned about the social cleansing. Tomorrow morning, I've got to go to a Dole office because I'm unemployed. There's an Olympic vacancy for me apparently, but one that's work experience. You know, and what we know about that is about slave labour. Most people aren't winning out of these games, and I think even people that kind of enjoy the Olympics and so on are realising that they're getting left behind. Whether it's the fact that they can't use the African Leisure Centre or the kind of the facilities locally. You know, it's kind of driving more people out of kind of exercise and sport. And for me, I think if we can get people together, if people are up for doing stuff tomorrow, that's fantastic, and doing some kind of leaflet and so on. But we have to have something very, very big in the next few weeks to lay down a marker, because we need to build a legacy. A legacy, one that says we're going to stand up to the bullies. And I think, actually, on the eviction, we shouldn't allow that eviction of Brian to go ahead. We should be having a telephone tree so that any kind of news of him being kicked out, we're around there and blocking the bailiffs and what have you. Those kind of things we need to do. But we need to build a legacy of protest.
And honestly, I'm really glad to see people here today, because when I saw this in the newspaper last week, I literally thought it was a joke. It's really quite horrific. But I don't know if people saw that. It was on like page 7 or 8 of the Metro a couple of days ago. It was a really bleak page basically. It said "Welcome to London," and underneath a picture of one of these massive missiles. And it was kind of interesting, because obviously that's not the picture they want to portray to people that are coming actually for the Olympics, but for the people, you know, like us who are on tube at 8:30 in the morning reading the Metro, that's exactly the picture they want to portray to us, because, you know, how many people in this room are actually going to the Olympics, going to board tickets, anything like that, and that's the case for most people in the Tower Hamlets. And you know, it's a very clear message, I think, isn't it? Saying, look, these things might be on your doorstep, but they're not for you. They're for people like you, and all you're going to have to look forward to is missiles in your home, making it possible, to get to work or anywhere, because we're going to cover everything in games lanes. You know, and it really is this very divisive thing. And I think that's why it is so important that we take up this protest tomorrow, and a bigger protest later on, because it's clear as ever to say, look, you know, we're building this here, it's nothing to do with your community. East London is going to be a spectacle for people to come in, you know, look around the stadium and shop in Westfield and all this kind of stuff. And I actually think it would be so positive if we could get a group of people like we're in this room, and people in the local area, and saying, actually, this is a community in East London, and what people here want is not to have huge, dangerous, horrible missiles put on top of their buildings, but actually to kind of reclaim, the space around us for things that we want to use it for. So I hope that people do want to take that protest forward, and that we can get as many people out the streets as possible, really.
Although you've spoken already, just take it very quickly again.
Very quickly.
Thank you.
Okay, an easy night tonight, so I'm going to ask for a question. Could you tell us, and if you can't tell us, you tell us why you can't tell us, when did, when did council officers first get to hear about this? When did councillors first get to hear about this? Like I say, if you can tell us. If you can't, tell us why you can't tell us.
Do you want to say that now?
Yeah, sure. I found out, as I said, through the media, and I spoke to the council officers and the mayor's office. They only knew just a few days before, so they weren't completely aware of the extent. I'm not exactly sure of the day, but I can find out and let you know in a separate email. Yeah. So if you can email me, I'll find out exactly. But they were just as shocked as we were. They said they will be consulting the residents, and their consultation was on the day with the military leaflets on the doorsteps.
And under what legislation are they clamping down on the officers then?
What are they doing now?
Under what rules, regulations are they clamping down on officers? You're saying can't say anything that rhymes with Olympic.
Yeah, there's quite a few. I'm not an expert
Oh, hang on,
on
mate.
legal issues, but if you do tell me, I mean, if you email me, I can try and get them to you. But we do have some sort of legal restrictions. Yeah.
Got Eileen.
Yeah, I think the housing element of all this is crucial. I mean, I think we should get behind one, and you know, the East End has a history. In the poll tax days, we did stop people being evicted, and it can be done, and landlords can be shamed out of inadvisable tactics. But also, there's a bigger housing aspect which I want to just chuck in. I think we should be demanding, and if necessarily conducting ourselves, a vote of the people who live in the blocks, not just at Lexington but in Waltham Forest as well. Do you agree that this is what you want on your roof? Yes, no, you know. And I think we should ask the council to take a part in conducting that ballot. Call it consultation, call it what you like, but that's how democracy works where I live. But in the bigger housing question, if we want to connect these things up, you know, there's supposed to be an Olympic legacy, which is they're spending shitloads of our money, both on the missiles and the Olympics, and the legacy was supposed to include housing, which is rapidly disappearing. You know, they're already cutting back on what that legacy will entail, and I think I would just put in a plug, if you like, for if we're doing wider campaigning, then I think one of the things we should be saying is that every single home that is part of the Olympic legacy must be housing for rent for the people of East London. And I think that way we can begin to, if you like, build the kind of, connect up the protests in a way that speaks to people.
I live in Waltham Forest. My son and 3 residents actually have just been evicted from their special needs housing due to the landlord wanting the block back in order to rent it out for the Olympics. Absolute disgrace, but and they are now homeless. What I want to say was yesterday I was walking on the street randomly with my 4-year-old grandson, and the police screeched up in a van, about 8 of them, and suddenly 4 of them jumped out, and it was quite a sudden thing. I'm thinking, what's going on here, you know? And we stepped back a bit, and they stopped to stop and search a young black man, which is nothing unusual, that happens all the time. But I then said to them, oh, you know, what have you stopped him for? He just seemed to be walking along. And they said, well, you don't know what we stopped him for. But I said, well, I'd like to know what you stopped him for. Well, it's none of my business. However, the WPC went on to say that they were part of the new high-vis policing on the run-up to the Olympics, which the public wants. I said, well, I'm the public and I don't want it. I don't want randomly to be walking along the street and every other young man or anybody who you think might appear to be suspicious, including myself maybe, to be stopped and searched and under what thing? You know, what is it? Drugs? Is it terrorism? Is it gun and knife crime? What is it now? And they were sort of saying, well, the general consensus is. However, I then had a conversation with them, and what I asked them was, Waltham Forest have been asking for more police for ages, being told there's no money. So, like a lot of the things that are being put into practice for the Olympics, which are supposed to be removed after the Olympics, but we know they probably won't and will remain, all the negative stuff around parking zones and all the rest of it, all the money-making stuff for the councils and the government. Will we keep these police officers? Because they've been asked for by the public. And they said, probably not, it's just the Olympics. So I think, you know, we need to be challenging these sorts of things as well, what's going on.
Okay, I've got one more quickly, and then we're going to have to wrap up. Sorry, I've got the guidance.
I think it's been some really fantastic contributions here, and it's really, I mean, it's really striking, isn't it, that actually with David Cameron and Boris Johnson are constantly talking about some sort of national unity, and this is meant to be some sort of celebration, at the same time as they're cutting jobs, public services, pensions, benefits to everyone, at the same time the social cleansing of Newham, and actually people, you know, being chucked out of their homes and so on and so forth. It really is obvious that there is a really very much us and them sort of situation. We really have, you know, nothing in common with you know, our rulers. It really is a class issue in that sense. And actually, really, what I think that just on top of that, what people have said has been fantastic. But I think actually, as well as the students that have been obviously, you know, had to pay for a whole term at somewhere like UEL and being kicked out of their universities and having their, you know, their deadlines pushed forward. Actually, one thing on top of that I think is really important that we should be doing is looking at the organised workers around here that are being affected by it as well. Think at, well, for example, UEL, it's also the UCU, which are very organised, and other universities as well, the University College Union workers, I think we should be reaching out to them. Actually, 28,000 bus workers today are balloting for strike action because they're not actually receiving their Olympic...
Boris will suffer sort of same sort of issues. I mean, there's been a lot of discussion about universities, but schools are, at the same time will also be out. You know, they'll be closed. The school that I work in is very close to you, and we will be out of work, and the kids will be around. And for me, that is a serious concern, where you're going to have like a mass population, and there's going to be, you know, obviously a lot of people problems with crowd control, and also the red route is something that, you know, I'm sharing this with you not because I'm criticising the Olympics, but because I really want to raise the awareness that the red route means that there's going to be, you know, very fast-moving vehicles that will be speeding down these roads, and kids will basically, you know, pedestrians won't know that the lights are not working, or the zebra crossings do not have to, you know, they're not working as well. So, you know, it's sort of going to be a recipe for disaster, unfortunately. I was very optimistic about the Olympics, but now I'm actually really worried. I would, first of all, my heart goes up to Brian. It's really hard when you stand up and you speak out the truth, and something like this, something like your home gets taken away from you. For me, I think I would do anything I can possibly to support you and talk to the RSLs or whoever it is, the Housing Association, and say, you know, that is, you know, completely out of order. And you know, there's a bigger issue just around sort of scapegoating or scaremongering you, is to silence everyone else, and so that people don't actually, they are fearful and they don't speak out. And that point was obviously made by Rebecca, and it's really important that we do everything to keep you back in your flat. And it's also important, you know, you're bringing motions and etc. And petition to the council will be good as well. That also shows sort of the strength and the feeling of local residents. And as I said before, it should be a borough-wide campaign. And I'm really, you know, looking forward to Pat's legacy of protests. And hopefully, you know, this organisation can build and increase. And I'll do whatever I can to support you guys. Thank you. I have to go because I have to do something.
Thanks very much, Rania, for coming.
Sorry, apologies, I can't stay. I just have to.
No. Thank you for coming. It's very good to have you here. Before we move on to the last two speakers just replying, I just want to go over the proposals that have been put forward in this meeting, just to get kind of agreement or otherwise. So I guess there's kind of agreement that we start to organise a big demonstration on the issues that people have raised. Is that agreed? I don't think we can wait. I mean, much though I personally support the idea of the demonstration in July the 28th, I don't think we can wait till then, obviously, because, you know, the thing will... So I think we need to start talking about the next few weeks. But people are happy with that.
Yeah.
Secondly, some sort of public meeting, at least trying to go for a big public event where we invite the opposition to debate. Do people agree with that idea? Yeah. Okay, and soon, definitely soon for that. Thirdly, the idea from Eileen, which is that we push at least up the level of propaganda and hopefully in reality for the idea that there should be some sort of voting on the issue. Maybe we can tie that to having the meeting. Do people agree with that? Yeah. The legal challenge is kind of going ahead anyway, so I mean I don't suppose anyone objects to that happening, and even if they do, I don't suppose they'll be able to stop it. Finally, unless tell me if I've missed anything out, but if I haven't missed anything out, finally the issue of whether or not we should do a protest tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Shall I put that to the meeting as a vote? Because I mean I don't think there's anything, hang on a minute. Well, well, actually, Brian, do you know where the meeting is?
Well, the MOD are doing the same tactic they did earlier this week, which is where they send their spokespeople to stand under the arch inside the gates at Bow Quarter. They only engage with people on a one-to-one basis, which means everyone is left atomised. Nobody knows that everyone else has a complaint. Nobody hears what they say to everyone else. So you know that's quite a clever tactic on their part. Absolutely. So they will be there. They will be inside the gate. Perhaps maybe we can, get some TV crews outside and invite them out to answer some real questions.
Jackie, do you have an opinion on this? Yeah.
I think it's great. I just wanted to say apologies, but I'm not going to the meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, no, well that is an issue. Well look, let me put it to the meeting. I mean, who could go? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, is there anyone who could go for a protest outside the Match Factory at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning? Hands up. Well, that looks all right to me. What do people think? Are we happy to go ahead with that? Okay, maybe someone can someone, well actually, can the people who put their hands up, or as many of them as possible, come back at the end and we'll have a quick chat about that. That's great. Let me just, okay, go on.
Just one other thing we might do. There is a meeting about this sort of thing at Rich Mix in Bethnal Green Road on Tuesday evening. Does anybody know more about it than I do?
Yeah, I heard that it's War on Want, isn't it? So that's a great idea, yeah. Yeah, we should go there and tell them. No, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. Okay, and I mean the final thing is, I guess we should have a follow-up meeting, which at least I suppose the first follow-up meeting should be kind of as much as possible a working meeting, if people are agreed. And I think maybe if we try and book this place, is this convenient for people in general? Good. Shall we say, I mean I don't know when it's available, but shall we try for Wednesday next week, Wednesday evening?
Just a point of whatever. Is it big enough? Do you expect it to be a bigger meeting?
No, we can open the door, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But in a way, I think we should have it as a working meeting and then go for the public meeting bigger. I'm not saying that it should be in any way limited, but we want it to be a meeting where people actually volunteer to do stuff, and you know what I mean. So shall we? Has everyone put their email down? If you haven't, can you come up and put it down, and we'll confirm. We'll try and confirm. Yeah, we'll try and confirm this place on Wednesday evening at 6:30, but we'll send that out, and it may be somewhere different, you know. Is that okay? Brilliant. Okay, just my last thing is this, the room does cost money. It costs about 50 quid, sorry, 50 quid. So there's going to be a collection on the door as people go out. If you could dig deep, because we also printed off some leaflets. So we're basically 100 quid short. So that's where we're at. And I'm now going to... Well, no, because we're going to get...
It is relevant to money. I'm just selling these T-shirts. I've been given them from the counter. And profits from these T-shirts tonight will go to this counter.
Oh, that's fantastic. Any words about some of the legal issues, Joanna?
Yeah, I mean, just really briefly, thanks for having me here. It's nice to be out and get a bit frustrating sat in an office. It's nice to be out with, feeling like you're engaging with people. Firstly, in terms of the legal issue, if there's anyone who wants to speak to me about how they've been affected and how they might be able to join in with any potential legal challenge, I'm not in any rush, so I'll be hanging around here or wherever in the area. And secondly, in terms of the protest, I mean, obviously I'm here from a legal team, but we've recently had a response from the police in the royal wedding fight, where the officer said, well, these people have 364 days of the year to protest. They shouldn't, they don't have to protest today. So just want to say, I hope everyone absolutely understand the importance of protesting on the right day, which is tomorrow, is right now, is as soon as possible. So thanks all for listening to me, and yeah, I hope to see you all soon.
Thanks very much, Donna. Thanks very much for coming along, yeah? And finally, I'd just like to ask Brian to say a few words.
I just got through there on Twitter that Channel 4 News has shown the building I live in, and then Philip Hammond has been given free rein to say, well, we've heard an awful lot this week from one person moaning about it, a very vocal person with objections. The MOD did yesterday start their kind of vicious counter-information. I've seen press releases where they've specifically talked about me as a journalist with an agenda who's been editing videos. I've done maybe 25 to 30 interviews a day since Saturday. It's exhausting. I've had to take the week off work. If anyone lives in the local area is willing to take up the baton and be a bit of a face, and maybe we can split the interviews, or maybe you can do all of the interviews. You'll get a lot of support emailed to you, you get a lot of abuse, but I mean, we really need to have not just one face, because it makes me a very easy target to eventually take down. I've been very lucky insofar as I'm a journalist who knows people in most newsrooms in the city, so I haven't been savaged yet. It is on the cards, and the MOD are getting angry with me, so I'd love, if anyone wants to come up to me afterwards and is interested in talking to the media and putting forward their point of view, absolutely do.
Great. I'd just like to say thanks again to Brian for everything that he's done for this campaign, but I'd also like to thank all of you for coming along, for your very good contributions and ideas, and for the great spirit that's been in the meeting. As I say, if you haven't put your email down, do put your email down. We'll get in contact with you. We'll hopefully have a meeting on Wednesday night and start getting things moving forward. So I guess the No Missiles in East London campaign is alive and kicking. Thanks very much.